Now, 9 times out of 10, this doesn't really need to be said, but this chapter was absolutely phenomenal. Definitely one of the best chapters of all time. Of course, it wasn't necessarily as interesting as the previous chapters, but still was a very eventful chapter. And of course, we all love to see exactly what happened at the end of the chapter. Now, I'm going to be talking about that specifically because it was just hilarious. Like, first things first, Kawaki basically surrendered to Shikamaru. He's like, I'm not going to leave. Then 5 minutes later, he's like, we're out. Like, we're gone. But of course, it is for good reason. They are trying to save Naruto at the end of the day. But one thing that I think that was very encouraging, they found the link to Naruto's chakra. Now, this is going to be a little bit confusing to me. This is probably going to be a very overarching question about how the time-space ninjutsu is going to work with the Karma Seal. Kawaki pretty much knew off the bat where Naruto was. Now, I'm pretty sure you guys know when Sasuke goes out on his missions, he pretty much doesn't know where his target is, or he probably doesn't know where the information that he's trying to get is. So he tries to go to multiple dimensions. Going to the multiple dimensions, that takes a lot of time. But Boruto and Kawaki, they opened the time space and they were just there instantly. This right here might just be because of the fact that Jigen was there before and Kawaki could possibly sense where Jigen is, or he could have possibly sensed where Naruto's chakra is. But that right there was definitely never really explained to us. But one of the biggest things that we can take from that is the fact that we've seen Boruto's mark on his hand, we've seen Kawaki's mark on his hand, and it resembled Momoshiki Otsutsuki. Boruto's hand, it looked exactly like Momoshiki's, and I think we all understood that Momoshiki was going to have a very big impact on Boruto's life, but now it seems like it's really getting real. Like, Boruto is actually linked with Momoshiki for the rest of his life. That's going to be a very interesting discussion. Of course, diving a little bit deeper into that, we've seen Jigen's daydream, and in the daydream, we've seen Boruto and Kawaki basically looking a lot like Otsutsuki figures. They had Byakugans. A lot of people were kind of saying that that might have been Boruto's dojutsu, but of course, that just seemed like a Byakugan, mainly because Kawaki also had the same thing with his eye as well, and we know for a fact that Kawaki does not have the Jogan. This right here is not going to be what Boruto and Kawaki are going to look like. This right here isn't set in stone. This is just what Jigen was actually thinking about. But of course, still, it was very confusing how Jigen was actually saying like, hey, these guys are going to turn into perfect Otsutsuki members. Now, this might just be the effect of the Karma Seal. This might just be what it is, but here's the thing, I don't necessarily know if they need to be treated as vessels for them to turn into Otsutsuki members, because as you guys know, a big question of all of this is going to be, do they have to be controlled by Otsutsuki members for them to eventually turn into Otsutsuki members? Like, for example, Momoshiki Otsutsuki is taking over Jigen's body as of right now, and of course his goal is to eventually take over Kawaki's body as well. If Momoshiki Otsutsuki does take over Kawaki's body, does he then become a perfect Otsutsuki member? Does he then get a Byakugan? Does he then get a horn? All the other superlatives and stuff like that? Or can Kawaki turn into a perfect Otsutsuki on his own? And that question is going to be very significant for the future of Boruto. What we do know, or what we can't pretty much assume, because it is Boruto's anime, Boruto is probably not going to be taken over by Jigen or by Momoshiki. I feel like Momoshiki is probably going to have a heavy impact in Boruto's life, but in terms of Momoshiki taking over Boruto's body and Boruto not having any voluntary functions of his body, I think the chances of that are very slim to none. But even still, I feel like a big portion of the Boruto fan base will want to see Boruto turn into an Otsutsuki member, even though that sounds very freaky, it sounds very Frankensteinish. Still, it'll be very interesting just to see Boruto go through that transformation. And not only that, along with the transformation comes very great power. One of the biggest topics coming to the Boruto anime period is if Boruto is going to eventually surpass Naruto. Now, I'm not saying that if Boruto turns to an Otsutsuki member, it's set in stone that Boruto is going to eventually surpass Naruto. That's not what I'm saying at all, but still, we have to understand that Naruto went through multiple transformations. Naruto went through multiple power boosts. Can this form possibly be a similar situation that just instantly makes Boruto stronger? And of course, because of his Karma Seal, this seems like a very, very real possibility. But the big question is Boruto going to come and turn into a perfect Otsutsuki member? I definitely do want to give my theories about that specific topic, but that's probably for another video. This is still kind of like a pseudo chapter review. Now, one of the really cool things about this chapter is that it included a lot of the other characters that are really important to Boruto. For example, Boruto and Kawaki didn't take time space ninjutsu by themselves. They took it with Sarada and they took it with Mitsuki. This seems to be a very good power balance between all the Genin, and of course they are still Genin, so they're not necessarily going to be doing any damage to inner members of the Kado or anything like that. But these are the top tier elite of the elite in terms of the next generation of characters of Boruto. But still, I really think it was very cool including them, mainly because Mitsuki and Sarada have been kind of getting shafted in the Boruto manga. Of course, we understand that the Boruto manga, they're supposed to be all business, and in the anime, those two characters specifically are going to get a much bigger role in the anime. But still, I really felt like they were kind of being written out of the story, and this right here just gives them a very big role into the overall scene of things, especially in rescuing Naruto. Now, it turns out that we see an inner member of the Kado organization. Now, this guy was probably one of my favorite characters from the rip. He looks very big, he looks very broad, he's obviously taller than a lot of the characters. He's also very just wider than a lot of the characters. It just seems like he's just all brute force. Now it seems like he's gonna have something very different about him, because Kawaki said that Boro can possibly be stronger than Jigen in different ways. Now I don't really think that Boro's gonna be stronger than Jigen in terms of brute force, but I still do believe that Boro's gonna have some sort of unique techniques and unique abilities that's only unique to him. For example, if you guys recall, there is a member of the Akatsuki called Hidan. Now Hidan wasn't necessarily the strongest, he wasn't necessarily the fastest, but he can still like wipe out an entire village, which he did in one of the first scenes that we actually seen him. He literally wiped out a village. As I said, he's not strong, he's not fast, but he has specific techniques that make him extremely overpowered. And I feel like this right here could possibly be the same thing with Boro. Now a big thing about Boro is that I really don't think that he's probably going to be all in on the mission that Jigen does want to accomplish. For example, I don't really think that he's probably going to kidnap Kawaki and make a beeline to Jigen's hideout. The thing about Boro and everybody else in the COD organization is that they're not necessarily as loyal to Jigen as we all thought they would probably be. As we see from Kashin Koji in this chapter, and I'll probably make a full video dedicated to Kashin Koji later on in this week, but Kashin Koji pretty much is about to backstab Jigen. Now Jigen himself said that he pretty much trusted Kawaki a lot more than he trusted a lot of the other characters in the COD organization. Now what does that say about the other members of the COD organization? It just seems very funny to me how everybody in the COD organization, they are not united. They probably don't even want all of the same goals. But going back to Boro, I do think that he's there because Jigen probably told him like, hey, I want you to go there and make sure Sasuke doesn't go back and take Naruto back, something like that. But I really do feel like Boro is probably not going to go through with a lot of things that he's probably told to him, because he's probably just lazy and he probably just doesn't like to listen to Jigen. Another thing about Jigen is the fact that he's extremely weak. Boro probably knows that he can't really do anything to him, and not only that, Boro is probably also on Jigen's level. Now specifically what I actually expect from Boro, I expect Boro to stay exactly where he is. For example, I think the thing that Jigen actually asked Boro to do, he pretty much asked him to watch over Naruto, make sure Naruto doesn't try anything too crazy, and make sure that Sasuke Uchiha doesn't necessarily show up and take Naruto back, as I spoke about earlier. Now when we seen everybody show up at first, one of the first things out of Boro's mouth was that these guys don't look like Uchiha Sasuke. Now that right there pretty much tells me that he was instructed to look out for Sasuke, and of course if he did see Sasuke, to probably eliminate him or something like that. Now that's not going to happen as of right now. I feel like of course eventually Sasuke probably going to show up, but as of right now, as we know, Sasuke is extremely weakened. But Boro is probably not going to leave his post, and because he's not going to leave his post, it's going to be very difficult for Kawaki and everybody else to possibly save Naruto and get Naruto. The only way I could possibly think about them saving Naruto is if one, they do some sort of sleight of hand and Boro doesn't actually know that Boruto and Kawaki has the possibility of just summoning a time space ninjutsu whenever they want to. Now of course he's aware that they do know how to use them, because hey, how did they get to where they are right now? But in terms of how quick they can do it, that's still a mystery to him. Now they can possibly do some sort of sleight of hand and possibly swoop Naruto out of that dimension extremely quickly, and Boro can't really necessarily react in time. But in my opinion, that right there is very unlikely. I feel like if they were to possibly do something like that, Naruto would have to be very loosey. He'd possibly be the one to sprint through that time space ninjutsu, and not only that, Boro himself could possibly use the time space ninjutsu and chase them and track them down. Now another thing is the possibility that Boro is actually called off of his post, mainly because Kashin Koji is probably on his way to attack Jigen. Jigen is probably going to be caught by surprise, one, but also pretty much overwhelmed. Because Kashin Koji is that strong, he's probably going to have to call for backup, and because he's probably going to call for backup, Boro might actually leave his post, which will definitely leave an opening for Naruto to escape with Boruto and everybody else. Now that right there, in my opinion, would seem to be one of the most realistic ways to possibly get Naruto out safely and soundly, but overall the situation looks dim. It just doesn't look very good for Boruto, my boys, even though I feel like eventually they're probably going to find a way to do everything that they can to get Naruto back home. Now one of the things that we kind of thought was going to happen is that they're going to go through a time skip. Naruto's probably going to be stuck in this dimension, and it's going to be a time skip, and of course he's probably going to stay there until Boruto is like 17 and he does eventually fight Kawaki, and they do have that dialogue like Kawaki's telling Boruto like, hey, I'm going to send you to where I sent the 7th. But now it's looking like Naruto could possibly be in a very different place. But I do want to know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. This chapter was definitely a very good one. Of course, it's more of like a hype chapter for the next chapter of Boruto, because in the next chapter, that's when we're going to see a lot of the action. We're going to see Kashin Koji pull up on Jigen. We're going to see Boruto and everybody else pull up on the other inner member of the COD organization. We're going to see Shikamaru and see exactly what he's trying to plan out to do. And of course, one of the biggest things that we can anticipate, the only help that we could possibly anticipate, is Sasuke getting back healthy. And of course, how long he's going to take to get back healthy, we have no idea. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. Again, this chapter was absolutely amazing, but it's been your boy Baara B, and we out.
Check my clock, I can't stop. Fuck around, make my 40 pop. No popcorn, I pop pistols. Reaming my body, clothing no issue. Bitch, you look sick, you need a tissue. You drop a body, I just might bless you. I'm at your sexual, no high cholesterol. Where's Jenny Craig? Bitch, just get sexual.